Today, we are conferring the second chapter of Ambrosia on the topic of convergence and divergence between quantum physics and Buddhist philosophy of emptiness. Ambrosia is illuminated by Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul, who is the director of Tibet House in the Cultural Center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, New Delhi, since 2011. In brief about Geshe, he has served as the interpreter and translator for His Holiness the Dalai Lama for many years. He is one of the chief editors and co-authors of many scientific, philosophical, Buddhist and secular books, which are being reviewed by many in the fields of Buddhist philosophy, metaphysics, epistemology, and science. He has been working with many prominent professors in the UK and USA, as well as with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. At the same time, he has translated several important Buddhist philosophy texts and has contributed various papers for national and international conferences. Tashi Delek, Aibuan Geshe.
Tashi Delek, Shermila, Miss Shermila.
So, how are you, Geshe, these days? Doing well?
Yeah, we are doing well. Everybody in the world is fighting with COVID. Now, luckily, things are much better.
Yes. So even Sri Lanka is also facing the same difficulty, but we hope everything will be fine in near future. So, Geshe, to ask you some very casual questions. Now, you are the director of Tibet House, Cultural Center of His Holiness Dalai Lama. What sort of a responsibility there you have? I mean, like, are there any special programs you are organizing as the director of Tibet House?
Thank you so much. So basically, in Delhi, His Holiness the Dalai Lama has two important offices. One is the Bureau of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which takes care about the state affairs of Tibet and the Tibetan administration here in India. And the other is Tibet House, which is the cultural center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And this Tibet House, we basically, the whole purpose of His Holiness the Dalai Lama for establishing this Tibet House is to disseminate the culture of Tibet to India and to the world at large. And primarily, while it has many programs like exhibition, festivities, then the conferences, and the monthly lectures, annual lectures, and with all these things, since 2016, with the blessings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Tibet has launched two extremely important programs to contribute to the Buddhist teachings in general, and more precisely the Nalanda Buddhism. The first, we launched the Nalanda Master's Course. So this incorporates the extremely important studies of philosophy, psychology, logic, metaphysics, which were the legacies of the Buddha Shakyamuni, which were the legacies of the great Indian masters, Agartha and Nagarjuna, and so forth. And so that is meant for the 4.5 years. And so meanwhile, anybody who is graduated from this course, you can then read the Tripitaka in the Pali language or the Tripitaka in the Sanskrit language. You can understand them so well. In other words, the study program that we ran, Tibet House renders, is something which can be of incredible utility to understand the teachings of the Buddha in general, and more specifically about the concept of anatta, concept of the selflessness as taught in Buddhism. And then the first batch of this program, which of course was launched by His Holiness the Dalai Lama here in Delhi. And the first batch, we had about like 460 students from internationally. And then seeing that the many people are showing interest, and of course in the monastery universities, which otherwise takes like 15, 20 years to complete this course, we condense these in 4 years. And the benefit that it is directly taught in English, where the people who did not have any access to the Tibetan language, they can have direct access to these through the English language. And also that it is been provided in both ways. The people can come in person for the physical appearance classes, and also people from the outside Delhi, wherever you are in the world, can take part in this through online. And then it has the exam mode and the assignment mode. People who are interested in exams, they can sit for exam modes, and people who are interested, not so they're scared about exams, they can apply for the assignment mode. So particularly we encourage, ideally speaking, we do not really want to charge any the money for that, but then for the people to let them feel the weight and the value of this, we just charge something minimal. And for the students, for the monastics, for the monks, nuns, and the students, we give like 75% of the concession on top of the already subsidized, very, very, very much subsidized version. And then later on, we're seeing that there are so many people taking interest in this. We were then compelled to launch another program, one-year program, which is known as Nalanda Diploma Course. So with this course, you get a very beautiful picture of what Theravada Buddhism is, what the Tripitaka is, what is Anicca, what is Dukkha, what is Anatta, what is Nirvana, and what is compassion, and the psychology. All these things are being taught within this 1 year program. So that is known as Nalanda Diploma Course. So the point is that anybody who completes the Nalanda Diploma Course, they're entitled to do the Nalanda Master's Course, which is for 4 years. So these two are the main programs at the moment being conducted under Tibet House. So the whole idea is to disseminate the culture of Tibet to India and to the world. Yeah.
So, Geshe, if someone is interested in joining this program, now for others' information, I'm asking this question. So what is the access? How can they get registered to these programs?
Okay. So this is, in fact, we have a separate staff there, separate staff assigned as the Nalanda Studies Coordinator, Nalanda Study Coordinator. And anybody who likes to join, they just give the contacts, like the phone number, the WhatsApp number, or email address, and then the office will give you all the forms and so forth. Or you can just type tibethouse.in, www.tibethouse.in, and then you will see all the information is there. You can easily download them, or you can easily fill up the form. That's very convenient.
Thank you very much for that useful information. So now we know that Tibet is a Buddhist country. So can you give a brief description how Tibet received Buddhism?
Okay, this is the very interesting story. At Tibet, we can split into, say, before 7th century and after 7th century. which means like 1,300 years back in time. Tibet, 7th century before, the 7th century was the time, it was like the revolution, a great revolution pertaining to Buddhism. 7th century. Tibetan king known as King Songtsen Gampo. And he got married to first to Nepalese princess, then to the Chinese princess. And then seeing that he somehow, of course, the Tibetans revere him as the manifestation of the Buddha of compassion. And he decided to say His Holiness the Dalai Lama puts it so nicely that the Tibet before 7th century, it was really, nothing was really there. The only thing was that the Tibetan king and the Tibetan people, they are a little barbaric. They're very, very tough people who just know only how to conquer and invade other places. So that way, in fact, now today, what we see as China, in those days, many parts of that were under Tibetan king. In fact, because in those days, no Buddhism, no belief in compassion. So therefore, they only believe in invasion and fighting. So the Tibetan king was very powerful and was really invading. The empire was really huge, massive. At the same time, the revolution started in 7th century with this king, King Songtsen Gampo, Tibetan king, Songtsen Gampo. And what he did was that the Tibetans, we did not really have anything except for this rough personality to invade. Besides, there's no culture, nothing. Tibet had its own indigenous religion known as Pen religion. But the Tibetan king, Songtsen Gampo, he was smart. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama said in a very the beautiful way, His Holiness says that this Tibetan king, he was smart, knowing that we the Tibetans, we did not really have good food. So he was looking for the good food all over around the world. And he saw the Chinese food was very good. So he imported Chinese food. In other words, we learned how to make Chinese food in Tibet. So Tibetan food was nothing but the replica of the Chinese food. And then the clothes-wise, the Chinese clothes not very good. Mongolian clothes very attractive. So the Tibetans, they copied the Mongolian, they imported the Mongolian clothes. So they put on the Mongolian clothes. The clothes very good, food very good. So what is lacking now? So superficially very nice now. Food is very delicious, clothes very nice, but the brain is empty. So he started to explore, where can we import the brain? The brain, China, not good. Mongolia, not good. Oh, India is the brain, source of brain, India. So imported directly from India. So there's the Tibetan emperor. He used his sovereign power to transform Tibet into a very different place. So then started the Buddhism in Tibet. And that was in 7th century. And the 8th century was, in fact, what I call as the golden era for Tibet, 8th century. Because in the 8th century, the Tibetan king Tisong Desen, he was able to invite the incredibly brilliant Indian scholar, practitioner, philosopher, logician, epistemologist, and the highly realized, enlightened being, the Bodhisattva Chandrarakshita. And he was already 72 years old. He was invited to Tibet, and then he was already 72. Just imagine, in those days, no trains, no cars, no the aeroplanes, nothing. A 72-year-old monk from a very hot place in Nalanda, from there walking all the way crossing the Himalaya in such a fridge-like place, land known as the land of snows in Tibet. He came there, And His Holiness would say that Tibetan people believe that he lived for 900 years. His Holiness says Tibetans are not good in mathematics. Tibetans are not good in mathematics. So he must have lived for 90 years. And the Tibetans accidentally add 1 0, it becomes 900. So Tibetans are not good in mathematics, so they made 19 to 900. And they said, wow, he's a Bodhisattva, he lived 900 years. In actuality, he just lived 90 years. Okay, so in other words, 8th century was an incredibly great the era of the golden era for the Tibet. So what happened was that with the invitation of this great teacher from India, Indian great master, Narendra master, to Tibet, and everything was done by the king through his own sovereign power, which means that Tibet was very independent, so powerful kingdom in those days. Then what happened was that with the sovereign power of the king, he established whole university, big university, similar to Narendra, with like 8 departments, translation department, then the Samadhi department for people to actually practice meditation. And so there were about like the several departments created, one of which the major one was the translation department. So that Tibetan people, although till that point, no really, very sophisticated culture, no sophisticated culture. So, but one thing which is so unique about the Tibetan, and on top of this roughness, rough people, one thing which is so nice about the Tibetan people is that the loyalty. This is amazing. Loyalty and the respect for knowledge. That's amazing. With this in mind, Tibetan people, they're so committed to learn Sanskrit in Tibet. And Sanskrit is a very sophisticated language. How can you imagine learning Sanskrit, very sophisticated language in Tibet in those days without the gadgets, without Google and anything? So, but the Tibetan, they're committed. But this great Indian master, Bodhisattva Chandrarakshita, he was very practical, very realistic, and he advised the king, King Trisung Dezen, the Tibetan king, Trisung Dezen, that no, this is not a good approach, that your young people spend 20 years learning Sanskrit, and then after that learning the Buddhist philosophy, psychology, is total waste of your time. Instead, start translating the materials, the teachings of the Buddha, Tripitaka, all the commentaries by the Indian masters from Sanskrit into Tibetan. Have them translated, and then the Tibetans can learn directly in your own language. So the whole huge, massive translation, a very systematic translation program was started, headed by the great Bodhisattva Chandrarakshita, the Indian great master. And then, meanwhile, we are not to forget that Tibet, it already had his indigenous religion, which is Bon religion. And of course, there was sometimes clash happening between the indigenous religion, Bon religion, and the new religion coming from India. Sometimes there was a little clash. And then in order to avoid this clash, Bodhisattva Chandrarakshita, he advised the Tibetan king to invite the Indian, the master by the name Guru Padmasambhava. So Guru Padmasambhava was invited in the 8th century to make sure that this clash was not happening, was resolved, and that the Bodhisattva Chandrarakshita, then he established the whole Buddhism to make Buddhism take root in Tibet. So this is how that was really the golden era for the Tibetan people. So this is how Buddhism in its most sophisticated form, like the psychology, philosophy, metaphysics, epistemology, all started to take root in Tibet then. That was in 8th century AD. So this is how Buddhism was imported to Tibet. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And okay, so we have heard that Tibet was the only country in the world ruled by a Buddhist monk. How do you explain this governance?
Okay, this is, yes, this is very true. This most likely, yes, for example, say the Vatican is being ruled by a Pope, and Pope is actually the Christian priest, and they chosen from the cardinals. So that the system is slightly different. In Tibet, yes, in the Buddhist countries, yes, yes. In fact, Tibet was one. Yeah, Tibet was one, and earlier, the several centuries ago, Bhutan was also Bhutan. Okay, that is a different story. Tibet was, yes, ruled by the monk as the king of the, and in fact, I would say that this is in a way, it has its own the shortcomings, because the say, if you look at the history of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the lineage, the what we have today is the 14th, and before that, many of them came and then passed away at such an early age. So there's a gap being left, and this during this interim stages, complications can arise, because what kind of people can take over the power? That is quite complicated, and but the President Dalai Lama is a very special one, very far-sighted and extremely visionary, with so compassionate, and really thinking about the Tibetan people. This is something so unique. So he devolved his political authority. And then while he is still alive, he made sure that the Tibetan people, they become independent to rule themselves, not dependent on, say, a monk or the dictator or as a king ruling them, but it must be a proper democracy to rule the Tibetan people. So this is what was in his mind, vision, to make sure that the Tibetan people, they really get the democracy. Perhaps in the history of the humanity, we see that many people gave their lives in order to have the democracy, to be ruled by the people, for the people, of the people. Whereas perhaps Tibet is the only country where, let's say, voluntarily, and the Tibetan people, in a way, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, is like the parents, like the mother, like telling the children that you must learn how to take the responsibility. So, in fact, nurturing them to take the responsibility as a democratic country. That is something so special. So, with this in mind, and yes, it has, the earlier, it has so many benefits. Being ruled by a monk, by a Bodhisattva monk, it has so many benefits. For example, like Tibet, if His Holiness the Dalai Lama was not the king of Tibet, then if somebody else was ruling, like then Tibet would have been like crushed like anything. In the first place. Usually the people at the top. Who are these people? Look at the world. We can see them very clearly. It's all about, okay, what I can get from the country. As a leader, what can I get? And then in some cases, in worst cases, the smaller countries, there's a danger of being so submissive to the bigger countries like China and so forth. It's so submissive, and then you get your pocket filled by the Chinese government, and then your country is at the danger, and then you are leading the country cannot do anything, and your pocket being filled. In fact, this is a deception of the common Chinese. But His Holiness is very different. Forget about the communist Chinese filling the pocket of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Whatever he has, he spent on his people. That is something so special that you hardly see in the world. That is so special. This is a benefit of a bodhisattva monk ruling the nation. It's so good. In fact, if this is something which is happening all over the world, that's amazing. But of course, we should be very practical. That, as I said earlier, say the interim government, when the reincarnations, they're very young, like age 1, 2, 3, and then there's going to be somebody else who has the acting regent, and the acting regent, what they're going to be like. So this is a little, I'll say, the drawback of the this kind of the government. Otherwise, if we get the right person, like the present, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the world will see the light. That's the light of happiness. If he's the leader of the world, everywhere there's going to be the light of joy, happiness, harmony, prosperity. No doubt, no doubt. This is a benefit.
So we are not lucky enough to have it. So we wish that we would have such a leader in Sri Lanka also.
Okay, so let us keep in mind that one, the Sri Lanka as the Buddhist nation, of course, it's very important that you have to know that you have a unique culture, a culture of compassion. Culture of compassion as the message of the incredibly great, the enlightened Buddha. We should not forget it. And if you lose this culture simply to appease somebody like CCP, then it can be great regret for the future generations. Future generations, they will think about you, and they will see the present, the present Sri Lanka as responsible for destroying the beautiful culture of Sri Lanka. So this is what we should be extremely careful to make sure that this generation does not bring regret to the people of the future generation of Sri Lanka and wherever in the world.
Exactly. Okay, Geshe. So let's move to the planned topic. So today we are supposed to discuss about convergence and divergence between quantum physics and Buddhist philosophy of emptiness. We would prefer if this conversation is, like as much as simple for many to understand, because I rather like, if everybody can understand, at least many can understand. So, Geshe, first, I would like to start the discussion with Buddhist philosophy of emptiness. So what I have learned, I don't know, according to my knowledge, what I have learned is emptiness is not nothingness. So if so, what is it? Can you explain that in a Buddhist perspective?
Oh, thank you so much. This is a very interesting topic. What is emptiness if it is not nothingness? In the context of the Buddha's teachings, that the say all composite things are impermanent. The first, the anicca, impermanent phenomena. Then all contaminated things are of suffering nature. That's the dukkha, suffering nature. Then everything is of the nature of selflessness, anatta. Number 3. So we see that the anicca, dukkha, anatta. So this anatta concept, anatta, what do you find as the common teaching, as the common teaching of the Buddha for all the traditions, Theravada Buddhism or Pali Buddhism and the Sanskrit Buddhism. This anatta is common. So what is this anatta? This anatta, once I was in Thailand. And I met the very important abbot. And I'm very fortunate that I had this honor of meeting with this well-respected abbot. And during the interaction, I asked if how often this concept of anatta is taught to the common people. And the abbot said that this anatta is a very difficult topic, indicating that it's not taught so commonly to the public, common public. In fact, I personally would, then I told the abbot that, yes, there's no doubt, it's a very complicated topic, but everybody should be liberated from suffering. Everybody should be liberated from samsara. And to be liberated, we must have to realize anatta. And although it's a difficult topic, but somehow we have to teach it skillfully. This was what I mentioned to the abbot of the one of the abbots in Thailand. So this concept of anatta in the Sanskrit Buddhism, this concept anatta has various labels. One is anatman, another one is emptiness, another one is ultimate expanse, ultimate truth. So it has many different labels, one of which is emptiness. Now today, if you go to various places in the world where Buddhism is, particularly the Sanskrit Buddhism, is being the focus on, okay, sorry. And where the Sanskrit Buddhism is being studied, reflected, and meditated upon, they talk about emptiness a lot. Actually, this concept of emptiness is the concept of anatta. So in fact, what I would say is that this understanding of emptiness, how the Shermila ji, how you explain that emptiness is not nothingness. What is emptiness then? Okay, this question should be good enough, should be, in fact, the response to this question should be good enough to help all the people who are, whether you're following Theravada Buddhism or the Sinhalese Theravada Buddhism, or say the Tibetan Buddhism, or any Buddhism in Pali language or in Sanskrit language, they must learn this, they must know this. If you don't know this, you can end up into then particularly the very brilliant scientists and the very brilliant people. Also, Buddhism is seems to be a very popular religion, but in actuality, with anatta, it is like nothingness. Emptiness means nothingness, which is totally nihilistic. Nihilism, which of course it is not. So we must know this concept so well. So what is emptiness if it is not nothingness? So emptiness should be understood as the middle way, not nothingness, middle way, middle, nothingness and absolute, permanent, and the independent, something independent. So when you say that I'm independent, I don't care about you. When you say I'm independent, which means I don't care about you. You are sick, you are suffering from COVID. Who cares? I'm independent. So when you have a sense of independence, then the ego arises. So the Buddha said, nobody's independent. Nobody's independent. Everything is interdependent. So emptiness is a middle way. Is a middle way which says that it is not nothingness. Middle way means it should avoid the two extremes. It should avoid the two extremes. When you go on the bridge, don't go to one side, you'll fall. Don't go to the other side, you'll fall that side. Always go in the middle so that you will be safe. Likewise, the Buddha said, go in the middle. Emptiness should be the middle. It should not be the side of the nihilism, side of the independence, side of the absolutism. So for this, we need to know 3 points. Number one, emptiness means dependent origination. Emptiness means dependent origination. Number two, dependent origination means the middle way. Okay, so A equals B, B equals C, therefore A equals C. This is very important. It's a simple mathematics. A equals B, which is emptiness means dependent origination. And dependent origination means the middle way. B equals C. Therefore, A equals C. Emptiness is not nothingness, it is the middle way. How? Now how? For that, don't accept these teachings blindly. The Buddha said, when I was in Cambridge, 2000, England, in Cambridge, 2003, end of 2003, I used to meet a lot of professors, physicists, and I met one physicist, an extremely bright physicist, and also a little arrogant. Not arrogant, I would say, not arrogant. Somebody who simply outright rejects you, saying that what you said doesn't make sense. So we are discussing, and then he said that in this world, only physics is education. And I said, why? Then he said, because only physics allows you to have a critical thinking. All others are imitation of the earlier teachers. Then I said, okay. Then they just listen what the Buddha has to say. Then I quoted the Buddha. I said, the Buddha said, the bhikshus and the wise people, bhikkhus and the wise people, just as the goldsmith tests the purity of the gold by cutting, rubbing, and burning the gold, you should also examine my words and put them to practice, not simply because you respect me. And the scientist, he remained silent for a few seconds. And he said, oh, the Buddha must have been a great physicist. Okay, so this should be the attitude. When we follow the Buddha's teachings, it must be followed in the spirit of asking questions, in the spirit of dialogue, not in the spirit of following blindly. That is so important. So with this in mind, when I say something that A equals B, B equals C, therefore A equals C. When I say this, emptiness equals dependent origination equals the middle way. Therefore, emptiness is the middle way, not nothingness, not independence or absolutism. When I say this, you must be able to ask questions, not to take it blindly. So with this in mind, first, how is emptiness the dependent origination? First, how A equals B? Emptiness equals dependent origination. For this, we have to know 5 points. One is emptiness. The first is emptiness. Number 2 is emptiness does not mean nothingness. Now let's say, who? What is who? And some people may say, what do you mean? Who are you? No. Who is WHO, World Health Organization? Likewise, emptiness is a short form of emptiness of independent existence. It doesn't mean empty. No. Who? WHO. Who? No. In the buildings, or the huge buildings, UNO buildings, you see WHO. What is this? World Health Organization. It's a short form. Likewise, emptiness is a short form of emptiness of independent existence. So of the 5 points, number 1 is emptiness, and number 2 is emptiness is not nothingness. It is a short form of emptiness of independent existence. So number 3, emptiness of independent existence means nothing exists independently. Number 3, nothing exists independently. If nothing exists independently, number 4, everything exists by dependence. Number 4, everything exists by dependence. If everything depends by dependence, then everything is dependently originated. Number 5. So with these 5 points, we come to know that emptiness means dependent origination, not nothingness. Number 1. Now, dependent origination means the middle way. Again, how? Dependent origination has 2 sides, dependence and origination. 2. When you say dependence, dependence means it is not independent. It is dependent on other factors. So when you say dependent, it rejects the independence, absolutism, one extreme, of action. I'm independent. My country is independent. So this feeling of independence that, we don't care about others, that independence is wrong. So when you say dependence, it rejects the extreme of independence, one extreme of independence, extreme of absolutism. And when you say origination means something comes into origination, something comes into existence. When you say existence, what is the opposite of existence? Non-existence, nothingness. So when you say origination, nothingness is rejected. So dependence, absolutism is rejected, extreme of absolutism rejected. Origination, extreme of nihilism, extreme of nothingness is rejected. So rejecting two extremes is following the middle way. So therefore, dependent origination means the middle way. Now, A equals B, which is emptiness means dependent origination. B equals C, dependent origination means the middle way. Therefore, A equals C. Therefore, emptiness means the middle way, not nothingness. So this is how we have to understand it. So therefore, anatta, when you speak about anatta, there's no self. Anatta, there's no self. It doesn't mean that self doesn't exist. Self does exist, but the self exists in the form of a middle way. Self does not exist as an absolute independent entity. Self is not nothingness. It is the middle way. This is what we have to know. Anatta means the middle way.
Thank you, Geshe. It's a nice, very good explanation. Right. So let's move to the next question. In simple, we know that quantum physics is the physics that explains how everything works. The best description we have from the nature of the particles that make up matter and the forces with which they interact. It is taught that matter and energy exhibit wave-particle duality. In relation to Copenhagen interpretation, an object may behave both as particle and a wave, but never both simultaneously. So it means like we cannot catch both together at the same time. So it is this fact that leads to Heisenberg uncertainty principle. That is how I have heard it. So how does this connect with the Buddhist philosophy of emptiness?
Okay. This is a very, very important topic. And also that this is the area where the scientists, usually the scientists, when they meet with the religions, they are not too happy. But when they meet with the Buddhist philosophy of emptiness or the anatta, when they meet with the Buddhist philosophers, they are very happy, the physicists. So because you see the parallels between the quantum physics and the Buddhist philosophy of anatta or the Buddhist philosophy of emptiness. There's a parallel there. And in fact, they just for information, the first in, let's say, like 17th century, like 200 years ago, the Newtonian physics was the predominant physics in the world. Predominantly, it was the Newtonian physics, the law of the motion, Newtonian physics. Then within like 100 years in the past, there was a paradigm shift. There's a shift in the other physics from the Newtonian physics, classical Newtonian physics, to the quantum physics. And alongside quantum physics, there is the relativity theory of relativity and quantum physics side by side. Theory of relativity primarily they started by taught by Albert Einstein, and the quantum physics primarily taught by Niels Bohr. So two of them were the contemporaries. And in fact, if we have more time, then we can really explain how. And of course, keep in mind that these two physics, the laws of the theories in physics, quantum physics and the relativity theory, it's not that these two are really complementary to each other. No. At the moment, these two are not at all complementary. In fact, it is the scientists they say that the physicists, they say that Albert Einstein spent the remaining half of his life trying to discover what is known as the unified field theory, and he could not succeed, because the quantum physics deals with the micro world, and the relativity theory deals with the macro world. Macro world, like how the solar system is operating, how the Milky Way galaxy is operating, how the intergalaxies, how they operate, how the universe is operating, how the light is operating on a large scale. So this is the relativity theory is the theory applicable to the large scale phenomena known as the macro world. And quantum physics is applicable to the macro world. Elementary particles, electrons, protons, neutrons, and so forth. And nowadays, they talk about, say, the quantum physics applicable also to the macro world, not to that size, like but they create some artificially in laboratory. They create some the phenomena, and where the quantum physics is applied, and something which is visible. So this is what they're drawing, but this is not what you find in naturally occurring in the world. So this is what you need to keep in mind. In other words, these two theories, they are not compatible to each other at the moment. And Buddhist philosophy of emptiness, or the anatta. So this concept, if you relate this to the quantum physics, there's a great similarity there. And there is, of course, the same. What exactly, where do they really square? This is a big question, but no doubt these two go in great complementarity between the two. Likewise, the Buddhist philosophy of the dependent origination, the relativity in Buddhist philosophy, and the Albert Einstein's relativity theory, these two go in great complementary to each other. So this is what we need to keep in mind. Now, going a little more into detail, the way you said the classical physics, like Newton's physics, the wave nature, and the particle nature. These two are seen as contradictory. Contradictory meaning that one object cannot behave in these two different, the dichotomous or contradictory the behaviors. Electron can never behave as a wave, and a wave can never behave as particle. So this was the belief of the Newtonian physics, or the classical Newtonian physics. And with the advent of quantum physics, this same electron with experiment done on the double slit experiment, they discovered that the same particle, depending on how the Copenhagen said, depending on how you design the experiment, if there's a single slit there, then this electron behaves as a particle. Whereas if there's a double slit there, the same electron behaves as a wave. So the same object behaves as particle meaning localized, as a localized phenomena. Whereas the same electron with the another design of the experiment behaves as a wave, not as localized, non-localized. So this is what is discovered. So whereas in Buddhist philosophy, this is exactly what we're talking about. Quantum, the concept of emptiness, concept of anatta, this is exactly what we're talking about. What we are seeing, what is really there. If the question is asked, what is this? What is this? You will say that this is flower. But the same object can be seen in different ways. Just the same particle is, with one experiment, is seen to behave as particle, localized. Whereas the same particle behave or seen from another design of the experiment behaves as wave. So the same object, the Buddha said that the same object is not really localized. It's not really seen as, it's not really as true as how we see that. It is simply dependent originate, depending on how you look at it. For example, let's say this. If I ask this, what is this? Most of you will say that this is glass of water. Inside is water. But if I ask the same question to the chemist, they will say that this is H2O. And if I ask the same question to say Albert Einstein, he will say that this is the electrons, protons, neutrons. That's it. And if I ask you which of the three answers is correct, they're all correct. The ordinary people, how they see this as water, it is seen as something which is flowing, liquid flowing. But Albert Einstein, he said this is a bunch of electrons, protons, neutrons. Neutrons, the electrons, protons, they are localized. They are localized. They don't really flow. It's just a particle, single particle there. But all three answers are correct depending on how you look at it. So what is really there, this question, this is known as, in technical terms, this is known as what is the ontological reality? What is really there? Is it the water there, or electrons there, protons there, or H2O there? What is really there? This is known as the analysis into the ontological reality. What is what is the ontology there? What's the ontology? What's the reality out there? This question. So according to quantum physics, they deduce to say that the independent of the observer, observed makes no sense. In other words, what the observed is, it depends on the observer. That's the experiment. How you design the experiment, that determines how the object behaves. So if you take aside the design of the experiment, then what's the object? You cannot say that. It doesn't make any sense. This is the concept of anatta, meaning that independent of the imputing mind, independent of your mind, object as a self doesn't make sense. That is anatta. So independent of your mind, what is there? What is there? What is that self? Taking aside your mind, taking aside the mind which imputes it, what is there as a self? There's nothing as a self, anatta, selflessness. This is the meaning. Self, does it exist? Yes, it does exist. How does it exist? It exists as coming from the mind, like a dream. Like a dream. Say of a movie projection. I'm sure many of you have watched a movie in a big movie theater. Say you are watching a movie here. You are watching a movie here, and you are here, or let's say you are here. And this is the movie screen on which you are watching the movie. Where is the movie coming from? In the big theater. The movie is coming from the projector. Where's the projector? Behind you is here. So movie is coming from the projector, but where's the movie? Movie is not on the projector, movie is on the screen. So the movie is on the screen, but the movie is not from the screen. It is on the screen, not from the screen. It's from the projector. So our mind is like the projector. The self, and all phenomena, they are there. The flowers here, flowers not here, flowers here, but the flowers not from there, flowers from the mind. It is on the object, but it's coming from the mind, like the projector. So independent of the projector, movie makes no sense. Independent of the observer, observed makes no sense. This is quantum physics. Independent of the mind, there's nothing existing there. That is anatta, that is emptiness. This is a Buddhist philosophy of emptiness. So there's a tremendous parallel between the Buddhist philosophy of emptiness, Buddhist philosophy of anatta versus the quantum physics of the observed. Makes sense only in dependence on the observer. So these are the parallels.
Amazing, Geshe-la. Amazing. Okay, so thirdly, in Paticcasamuppada, Buddha discusses about dependent origination, as you told now. What is the relationship of dependent origination with shunyata or emptiness? How do you see this through the lens of quantum physics?
Okay. This is the In fact, Shermila, your question is very comprehensive. At the same time, does not negotiate its complexities. So the complexities are there, but put in very simple terms. Say, dependent origination, emptiness, and how do you understand this in the context of the quantum physics? Okay, this is heavy responsibility. Okay, thank you. The first of all, when you speak about with your earlier question about emptiness, about emptiness to mean or not to mean. This will boost your immune system. And because of this, your health simply, revives so well. So the point is that there are two classes of emotions within our mind. One which is so destructive, and the other which is so healing and tender. Now, look, what do you want? I want happiness. If you want happiness, then cultivate the emotion which is so tender and healing. If you don't want suffering, get rid of these destructive emotions. This is what the Buddha concluded as commit no evils. This is what the Buddha said. Commit no evils. Don't do any evils. Means remove the destructive, accumulate as great wealth of virtues as possible. Virtues, you try to do as much as possible. What does it mean? Emotions, which is healing. Try to cultivate them. Enrich yourself with these emotions if you want happiness. Or tame your mind. Tame your mind. So to get rid of your destructive emotions, to enrich your the virtuous emotions or the healing emotions, it's all about the mind. Tame your mind. Tame your mind. Then this will happen. Otherwise, if you don't tame your mind, if you don't look at the mind inside, it's simply go out and just blaming other people like this. Then they say, on the one hand, let's say, let me give an example. On the one hand, they say you are afraid of, say you are diabetic and you are on heavy medication. Then on the other hand, you have the Coca-Cola next to the medicines, Coca-Cola there. What's the point? So you don't, on the one hand, you are taking all these medications to remove the diabetes. On the other hand, you have given Coca-Cola. What is Coca-Cola? I like it. Okay, so this is unskillfulness. If you want to get rid of the destructive emotions, if you want to enrich yourself with the happiness, with the tender emotions, then learn how to tame your mind, because these are all happening with mind. So this is what the Buddha said as tame your mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Okay, so with this, now, how to tame this mind so that the destructive emotions like anger, agitation, fear are removed, and the very healing, tender emotions are being enriched inside us. How do you do that? How to tame the mind? Okay, for that, we need to know the emptiness and dependent origination. So if you see the emptiness side, emptiness means that, oh, that is this person is so bad. Oh, this is a tsunami. It's everything so bad. This person is so nasty towards me. They're like dreams. They're like empty. First sight is empty. When you see empty, you wake up from the dream of the ghost chasing you. You wake up, no fear, because you know that, oh, the ghost that was chasing me in the dream, it was just my dream coming from mind. It's empty from the object. Your fear dissolves. So likewise, when you see the empty side, then all your fear, anxiety, anger, attachment, all these destructive emotions dissolve. Then this is the empty. Then the other side is dependent origination, pratit samutpad. When you see the pratit samutpad, the dependent origination, but Although things are empty of independent existence, but dependent existence is there. But dependence on your well-being, my happiness grows. If I destroy you, I will have the pain. If I help you, I have the happiness. By dependence on helping you, I get the happiness. By dependence on harming you, I get the pain. I don't want the pain. I want to help you. So by knowing dependence, all these good thoughts come to you is so healing. Look at His Holiness the Dalai Lama, a very simple monk. But although there's so much of problems in his life, but he's so calm because he's filled with compassion for the whole world. So he does not feel the stress. And if we are to take the position of the Dalai Lama for one day, we will have heart attack, right? Also, for sure, all the leaders in the world, except for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, if they had to go through the tension that His Holiness is having, if one day they will resign, guaranteed. They will know, how devious the CCP is. They know that. So therefore they will have all this tension. They'll just quit. Within one day they'll quit. So, but His Holiness the Dalai Lama, amazing. How come that he's able to remain like this for the last 60, 70, 80 years? How come? It's all because that all these destructive emotions, they're gone. There's a healing taking place every moment within him. Compassion. So that is because of the other side, understanding dependent origination or the pratit samutpad. So this is how you tame the mind, which the Buddha said, commit no evils, accumulate as great wealth of virtues as possible, subdue your mind, tame your mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. It's so beautiful. In other words, from this, what we learn is that the teaching of the Buddha, if somebody were to tell you, what is it? Tell me in essence, in 2 lines, what is the teaching of the Buddha? That don't give into the destructive emotions, because things are the shunyata nature. Yet, don't compromise with compassion. Increase your happiness by expanding the circle of compassion, because everything is dependent origination. You are not independent. Your happiness, your suffering, they're all dependent on others. Take care of others. It's so beautiful. That is the essence of the Buddha's teachings.
It's very interesting, Geshe, and it's amazing your explanation. Even I learned a lot of things. Now, past few days, I was a bit interested in learning about emptiness, shunyata. So I was also talking to, certain scholars about that. But with your explanation, I also got a lot of insights. Now, I get this kind of a question, like, now we know that everyone is not in a position to understand sometimes maybe, like this kind of a philosophy. Now, let's say if someone cannot really understand what is this shunyata or emptiness, dependent origination or independent existence, but still they want to be happy. Everyone wants to be happy. So for such people, what sort of a message do you have?
Okay. It is charity begins at home. And you have a home, right? So the first laboratory is your home. So the charity begins at home. Don't speak about the complicated philosophy and so forth. While at home, you are suffering, you are making your parents unhappy, shouting at the parents, shouting at the mother, and being lazy, asking the mother to bring food for you. You're already, in your 20s, 16, 17, 18, 20, 30, 40. Still the old mother has to bring food for you, give you the tea and so forth. And you talk about philosophy. If this is what happens, this is not what the Buddha expects you to do. So exactly. If somebody is genuine, if somebody is really very genuine, then what message the Buddha will have for them? Everyone has a message. Buddha has a gift for everyone. Buddha has a gift for everyone. Small child, Buddha will give a toy. Buddha will not give, Buddha will not give I said the big house and so forth for a small child, because a small child will not understand it. And for somebody who really can work for the community, like the Dr. Daminda and the Shermila, for two of you, knowing that they are starting the building for the Tibetan monks and nuns coming to visit Sri Lanka. They will not give you a toy. Buddha will not give you a toy. So, oh, you are doing a great job. So the Buddha has different gifts to different people. So don't worry. Although this philosophy, they are very sophisticated, but Buddha has a gift for you, each one of you. What is that gift? Don't expect external gift. The best of the gift is the gift of a joy inside. So you can smile. You have this face to smile, right? Don't show angry face to your mother. You wake up, you see your mother, give a smile. This is a gift. And the mother will smile back. Mother's smile is so genuine, so beautiful. You'll get this smile back. So this is what we can do. This is the meaning of give a smile. This has two things. Don't
So especially I will convey this message to my son.
Okay, very good. Very good. Therefore, I asked you, well, how is your son doing? For that reason. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that then when you smile, when you give a smile to your mom, and mom says, hey, my son, my daughter, you like a cup of tea? And the son or the daughter, oh, mom, thank you so much. You said, what shall I serve you? Mom, what tea? What coffee? Isn't there any milkshake? Isn't there any cold coffee? No cold coffee, my son, my daughter. What? No cold coffee. This is what happens in the world today.
Exactly.
This is what is happening in the world.
Yes. So you lose
that,
your happiness. Yes.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
In the process, you are very unhappy. So what you do is that charity begins at home. While you can speak about these big philosophy, at the same time, the practice, the action must start from home. Charity begins at home. Make your mother happy. Don't shout at your mother. The Buddha did not say, study the complicated emptiness and quantum mechanics. He did not say that. Buddha said, commit no evils, which means don't shout at your mother. Don't shout at your people who are near you. Then they accumulate as great wealth of virtues, which means smile at the people around you. Make others happy, right? How to do that? It's by taming the mind. Always remember that I'm the follower of the Buddha, the so compassionate, the person on this earth who really showed light, really took people from the darkness to the light. So this is who this world, the Buddha is, and I am a follower of that. So this is how I should always remember that I should not harm anybody. I should always help others. This is a very simple message. At the same time, oftentimes we tend to neglect it. So if we can do this much, naturally, you are in the first class, next year, second class. Second grade, next year, third grade. This is how we automatically grow. In the Heart Sutra, the Buddha taught one mantra, which says, Gade, Gade, Para Gade, Para Samgade, Bodhi Swaha, which means go beyond, go utterly beyond, and establish your happiness, establish your awakening. Meaning that, the meaning that we have to grow from where we are. If you're in Sri Lanka, and you want to go to Dharamsala to have the audience with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, you have to take a flight. You cannot just think, oh, I'm in Dharamsala and you reach Dharamsala. No. So there's a process there. So Gade means go beyond, go utterly beyond, and establish your ultimate awakening, ultimate happiness. So with this in mind, what we should be doing is that the gift from the Buddha is that whoever you are, you have a share of the gift from the Buddha. So the first thing that all of us need to keep in mind is the charity begins at home, that I should not always keep in mind, I should tame my mind by doing away from negativities and to embrace the kindness, embrace compassion towards others. And then in the actual act, in the morning, just give a smile to your mom, give a smile to your dad, and give a smile to your grandfather, grandmother. This is so beautiful. This is how we begin. And then we can talk about the big philosophy, the comparative studies between the philosophy of anatta, emptiness, and the quantum physics and relativity theory. This we can talk later.
Exactly. It's very interesting. So doing simple things, starting from simple things is the most important way that you can have, happiness in your life, at least to share some kind words, give a smile, start like that, rather than just talking about quantum physics and all. So anyway, your explanation, your presentation, amazing, Geshe. And thank you very much. I namaskar to you. Thank you, and hope to meet you again in Ambrosia chapter.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
And my deep thanks to Dr. Daminda and the Shermila yourself, and to all the team in the Satipatthana, and then Ambrosia, all those who are working in this pursuit. I really appreciate the spread of the message of the Buddha, of the compassion on the basis of understanding of Pradit Samutpan, dependent origin. That is so important. In fact, whether somebody is following the Pali Buddhism or Sanskrit Buddhism, we are all brothers and sisters of the same teacher. We should not forget this and see how much we can spread this message of compassion and love towards others.
So before leaving, yes.
Geshe,
do you have any message to Sri Lankans?
In fact, I would say that the political issue is a different story. Otherwise, since when I was as young as in my 20s, one time on a train. Okay, this is a short story I'd like to share with you. On a train, coming from all the way from South India to say the Dharamsala, on the train, which is about like I think 3 nights and 3 days. The trip by train, and on the train, I met two, I think, foreign Westerners, young Westerners, gentlemen. And then we started to we all locked up in the same cabin. So we started to talk. Then I asked them, where do you come from? They said that we came from Sri Lanka. They were Westerners actually. We came from Sri Lanka. Okay, what do you do? So what's the impression of Sri Lanka you got? In fact, I heard about Sri Lanka since my very, very, very young age, but did not have any idea what they, and then after meeting you and the Dr. Daminda, it is really awakening. And so nice to see the two of you, and also the Sri Lankan people coming to visit the Buddha relics in the National Museum in Delhi. So I've been seeing them from distance, and yeah, I've been meeting some brilliant, wonderful Sri Lankan people, and particularly one Sri Lankan scholar by the name Professor Asanga Tilagrana.
Yeah.
Extremely wonderful, amazing example of goodness and the scholarship. So when I see Sri Lanka, I see people like you, Dr. Daminda, Professor Asanga Tilagrana, and so forth. Okay, what I'm saying is that, so there, I just asked, what is Sri Lanka like? Because I've never been to Sri Lanka and I was very young. I must be in my early 20s. And the two gentlemen said that they put it so beautifully. What they said was that in Sri Lanka, if my bag, somehow I forget the bag in a street. And then I already left somewhere, like say the 100 kilometers. If I come back, I'll see the same bag on the same spot. Wow. And this is how these two Westerners, they describe Sri Lanka to me. And to my mind, I felt so proud because Sri Lanka is a Buddhist country. And this really, how these two people, they described Sri Lanka to me. It's a Buddhist country, really proving that we are in the land where the Buddha's message is being practiced. Amazing. So I have no message other than to say I really appreciate keeping aside the politics, keeping aside the politics. Otherwise, keep your country as beautiful, not just the superficial external beauty, all the money coming from some other countries and so forth, but the beauty inside,
Yes.
beauty of compassion, beauty of the Buddha's message. Continue to radiate this beauty to the world. This is my, say, the heartfelt plea, not message, heartfelt plea to my Sri Lankan brothers and sisters. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Geshe-la. Thank you.
Welcome.